Rights, the memorandum issued by the United States of America President Joe Biden, in which he threatened to sanction countries that refuse to condone the abhorrent flaunting of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and intersex LGBTIQ people in the face of other law-abiding citizens of such countries. Ordinarily, the rant of the US president should have been ignored, his predecessor having treated the world to endless rounds of tantrums and drama, but it is necessary that people of conscience across the world should rise up as individuals and groups to highlight the folly of President Joe Biden. We are also encouraged to speak out because the threat, while ominous, appears to be targeting at our beloved country, Nigeria. This is because we have the Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act 2013 that makes it criminal for people to openly engage in abhorrent practices that the United States of America is attempting to promote. It is pertinent to point out here that the Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act 2013 is not the imposition of just one random dictator. It was not signed into law by the present government, but by its predecessor. It is legislation that had the touch of the three arms of government. The legislature passed the bill, the executive arm of the government signed the bill into law, while the judiciary has at one point or the other entertained suits pertaining to its legality. The implication of what the United States is asking countries to do, therefore, is akin to asking that they disregard their democratic institutions, discard their national sovereignties, and adopt dictates from the President of the United States of America. This is a clear threat to democracies across the world because it means whatever the representatives of these countries decide for their people will be of no consequences. It is a matter of time before elected persons begin to cite the US as the basis for which they will have no regard for their constituents. There are also the fact that caving into President Biden's demand will effectively mean that the whole time and effort expended by Nigerians in making their views known on same-sex marriage issue will have been wasted. Does it now mean that countries of the world should simply wait for the US to make laws and decisions for them? In which case, there will be no need for these nations to have presidents, parliaments, and courts, since President Joe Biden has decided to take over their functions. A lot has been said about the desirability of the LGBTQ, so we will not dissipate efforts in canvassing arguments against it. But suffice to say that the tendencies that Biden's America is trying to make Nigeria adopt will not be tolerated. Among the breeding hearts of American cattle, since it will naturally lead to decline in the farm's output, fall in revenue, and eventual collapse of the animal husbandry subsector. When male animals fail to mate with female in the name of LGBTQI. One point we want the federal government of Nigeria to impress on the United States of America is that nations of this earth have the responsibility to enforce the laws that govern them internally. If the United States thinks laws should not be enforced, then it should have demonstrated this by allowing pro-Trump protesters take over its capital when they invaded the place in challenge of the alleged election fraud that sacked former President Donald Trump from office. If the United States can take measures which it claims were meant to safeguard its democracy, then Nigeria, by the same token, reserves the right to safeguard its own culture. We call on the federal government of Nigeria to immediately articulate areas of counter-sanctions that will be deployed against the United States if it presses ahead with its threat to use sanctions in forcing countries to accept the unacceptable. This should be backed up with ensuring that Nigeria's next ambassador to the United States of America is someone that can meaningfully engage the country at the level at which it plays. We want an ambassador who can situate Nigeria to relate with that country from a position of strength, as opposed to a nation that cowers at each episode of United States distemper. Nigeria should equally build and lead a coalition of the righteous, made up of countries that are opposed to the degradation of human values as embodied in the pro-LGBTQ that Biden's America has embarked upon. We further urge that the federal government of Nigeria immediately begin risk assessment regime to ensure that Nigeria is able to ward off any campaign of destabilization that could be launched against it under the innuendo of full range of diplomatic tools. Nigeria should not be caught napping, especially when the United States has run a similar operation against our beloved country, using the NSAS protest as a cover. We are all aware of how bank accounts linked with the LGBTQ community were used to finance the protests, and how LGBTQ members manned the social media propaganda and disinformation campaign that attempted to make the government look bad. We want the federal government to note that Biden's memo was not published in isolation. As a prelude to the memo, United States hirelings and urchins had activated the Lekki Toll Gate hashtag as a replacement for NSAS protests, which they are planning to use as a means of provoking security response that will then be used as a launchpad for preventing enforcement of the Same-Sex Marriage Prohibition Act 2013. Thank you very much, and God bless you.